of rest because it's about to be all about respond for days and I'm guessing weeks here in Texas.
What are you most concerned about, David?
Well, right now I'm most concerned about my fellow Texans. I'm a native Texan. This community means a lot to me. And we've been through things like this before. I huddled in my home in Channelview, just east of Houston during Hurricane Alicia with my family. And it was less than an hour after the storm passed that our neighbors and my fellow Texans were out recovering from that event. From a Red Cross perspective, I think what we need most is volunteers. And we need people who have the means and have the ability to come out and help and support their neighbors here in Texas. They can volunteer with the Red Cross at redcross.org/volunteers. The Red Cross relies on the commitment of their volunteers and the generosity of their donors to help in the times of need. And that's really what I'm focused on here tonight.
Even here in New York where I am, I heard neighbors saying today that they were starting to send care packages, and you mentioned some of the volunteering and what they can do. But if you can tell us more in the coming days, people are going to want to help. What's the best way that they can assist?
Well, honestly, at this point, the best way they can assist is financially. Redcross.org is the best place to go to get that information. This event is going to be catastrophic. It's going to be millions and tens of millions of dollars of recovery. And the Red Cross is here to support our neighbors. The Red Cross, you mentioned earlier the storm of 1900, Don. The last disaster response that Clara Barton, our founder, served on before retiring was the Galveston hurricane in September of 1900, known as Isaac Storm. The Red Cross has been responding to hurricanes on the Texas Gulf Coast and all over this country since then, and we will be long after Hurricane Harvey.
What are you most concerned about with this storm? First, you, David.
I'm most concerned about the flooding here in the greater Houston area, the southern part of our region and our state, the winds and potential for tornadoes. And we're already hearing about building collapses down in the southern part of the state. But the flooding is really going to have the long-term impact that I think could be devastating and keep a lot of people out of their homes for a very long time. And I think, for me, that's what I'm concerned about the most right now.
Lieutenant General, what about you?
Flooding and the fact that we didn't have a full-fledged mandatory evacuation. Katrina, we had a mandatory evacuation, and we got 80% of the people out of the city before the storm. We may have come close to that in Corpus, but the rest of that area, very little evacuation, particularly in the small rural areas that are inland, that could be affected by the surge water, and those areas that are subjected to flooding because it's a coastal plain. And it's a lot more dynamic than New Orleans was because it's rural areas that are subject to flooding, and now we've got these small towns where people are isolated, and that is what I fear the most, Don.
General Honore, thank you so much. David Brady, thank you as well. I appreciate it. When we come back, much more on all of our breaking news tonight. Hurricane Harvey makes landfall on the Texas coast, and North Korea fires 3 ballistic missiles.
Chased, adored, always in the limelight. And 20 years after her death, there are still questions about the fairy tale life.
Do you think she felt lonely?
And its tragic ending.
She wanted a life.
CNN searches for the truth.
Did you find any indication that the princess and Dodi were murdered?
CNN special report, Diana Chasing a Fairy Tale, Sunday night at 9.
Ron, something's going on in Schwab.
Oh, really? Thank you, Klein.